Merry Meet Annie here. This video is in response to a viewer's question. I'm interested in this one myself. I've often struggled with this very thing. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. The question is about the dogma and the indoctrination of past religious experiences that follow us along our path. This person told me they knew without a doubt that they were following the path that feels appropriate to them. They said it's where I belong, and I wonder how it took me so long to find this beautiful path. Even so, all of the indoctrination and dogma of my past religion still lurks a bit, and it's hard to shake. I'd love to hear your experience with such issues, if any, or just advice on how you would kick what is no longer wanted and no longer serves once and for all. I think a lot of us can provide good advice on this, and I hope to see that if you have a chance to respond or VR to this. And I'm sure that there are amazing videos already out there on this subject. I have a definite view about it. Not just, for instance, someone like me. I was raised as a Lutheran, so as a Christian. Obviously, that came along with expectations. It came along with certain sets of expected beliefs, dogma, and indoctrination, as this person described it. For me, indoctrination would have been more that I was baptized in the church, and therefore there were things that my family and church members expected of me. There were the right things to do and the not right things to do. Now, I have to admit, for me, it wasn't a particularly onerous situation. My family weren't heavily into church, so we only went a few times a year. I think my brother and I were hauled off to Sunday school, but the parents didn't really participate very much in church. I didn't have as much to shed as a lot of you. However, it's not just about that religion of our family that so many of us are trying to move beyond. It's also about things along the way, the things that we've tried that haven't worked for us, the groups who may have participated in, so we lived up to their expectations, and we decided, not me, I needed to move away from it. It can be when we read a book and they tell us this is what it is to be this kind of pagan or that kind of pagan. Yeah, isn't that indoctrination and dogma in its own way? So it is not just about moving away, from my perspective, from that initial religion of our childhood, if that's what we're moving away from. But it's also realizing we do that a lot in life as we continue to mature and grow, and this is not an age thing. I'm still doing it. I hope I'm not the only one my age still doing it. I don't think I'm unusual. There's always a stepping away from what doesn't serve us anymore, but does it go away? How do we truly step away from it? The first thing is, a lot of it is societal and community pressure. That's a lot more difficult to step away from, isn't it? The expectations to conform to whatever is the norm in our families and in our local community. Probably the only advice I can give regarding that is decide what of it still has value to you. Community might have a lot of import to you, even if you've moved away from that shared belief. Finding within it what still matters and moves you and inspires you, the support you can still get from things perhaps outside of the specific religious aspects of that community. But isn't it so much more challenging if you live in the kind of community that is so heavily religious in one direction or another? That gets a lot more tricky because you still have loyalty to family and you still want to be connected to your community. All you can do is decide at what level you connect to it. Go with the flow. Take what brings pleasure to you of it, and try your best to deal with what feels like pressures to conform. At the personal level, when you are making a new way, but things keep coming back, limitations you're putting on yourself, when you get to a certain place and you feel a frisson of discomfort, if not fear, because of your past and how it is influencing you. That very often is a call to stop and think. In your private practice, that practice that you're not sharing with anyone or you're sharing only with those you trust, that is different from that cultural or community connection you had to religion previously, you really do have complete freedom there. How you decide to handle communal aspects, family aspects, is separate from what goes on here and here in your heart. If something feels like it's niggling at you, holding you back, causing discomfort, sometimes even causing fear, it's something you need to address on a couple of different levels. One is, do you still have that belief? Are you hanging on to something because you were told it was? Or are you hanging on to something because, whether in its entirety or in some part, it still does have meaning for you? It breaks my heart when someone has decided they need to embrace, for instance, Wicca. But they truly have a beautiful connection to whatever the God of their childhood was, often the Christian one. But they were really having problems with the politics and the church, the buildings and the specific dogma around it they were encountering. God had already made itself known to them. They were just finding that connection different from the way those around them connected. So they felt the need to move away from it. They blamed the all that was around it on feeling a disconnection, when actually they had a beautiful, perfect connection. They just needed to explore it, even if it was within the church and the community that they were having some discomfort with. They had to search within that for what their personal connection to it was. So one of the things that can come at us when these things feel like they're niggling at us, and what we see as a new and more free exploration of our spirituality, is there may be things of great value, of great passion, of great belief that we don't need to leave behind. We might have to look at them in a different way, outside of society's expectations of what they are. So first and foremost, I would counsel, what are those things that you feel niggling at you? Are they truly something you need to leave behind and you're not, because of perhaps guilt? After all, often these tie us in to people we love dearly. Or is there something there you need to explore? I'd also counsel that sometimes this feeling that something is holding us back as we explore something new is we haven't found the focus and the meaning in this something new for us yet. Whether it ends up being very different from, similar to, or perhaps even just like the things we think we are leaving behind, we need to give ourselves time. When we have felt embraced by deity at a new level, whether it's seeing it in a new way or having a new relationship with something that may have been there very present in our previous practices, the nigglers tend to disappear. They take on a proper priority. We learn from them, and we more comfortably release them or reconnect to them. And there's the two things that are foremost in my mind as my advice to you on this subject. Think about what it is that feels like it's pulling at you and decide why it is pulling at you, whether it is indeed something of your past that needs to be released or re-explored from a new perspective. And give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. Know that while you are exploring a new path, if indeed it takes you very far from your original experience of religion, perhaps the religion of your family, those things are still going to be with you. By human nature, we look for something to fill that void. Even if in the end, your relationship to the divine is different than it was before. It can be very difficult to release everything that was, even if it does not serve you, if you haven't yet come to the place of knowing what does serve you. It's a matter of being kind to yourself. So part of it is logical, thinking about why the things niggle at you. The other is truly one of the heart. One is more easy to address, the other takes time. Those nigglers have something powerful to teach you. But I counsel to be aware. They could be teaching you very much that they are still present and real to you, if in a different form. It could well be that as you are more and more comfortable, feeling more connected to what you are doing, which is new, they won't be so niggly anymore. And know, importantly, we go through this the entire length of the progression of our spiritual lives. Something from the immediate or distant past will come back to teach us, to challenge us, to make us think. It further defines who we are. I wish you mirth and reverence. Mary Part.